In an era where superpowers are expected to lead with diplomacy, military tensions are making a serious comeback. Whether it's global realignments, territorial disputes, or aggressive defense strategies, some nations are now actively gearing up for potential conflict with the United States. You might think the world would avoid poking the proverbial eagle, but think again. From new military alliances to weapons testing and open threats, the signs of future confrontation are growing louder. Some nations are stockpiling arms, while others are strengthening ties with America's rivals. Today on Globe Discoveries, we're counting down the 10 countries that are actively preparing to challenge the U.S. in 2025. And trust us, some of these might surprise you. Number 10. Iran. Iran has long been on the U.S. radar, but 2025 is seeing the Islamic Republic adopt a noticeably bolder stance. With hardliner President Ibrahim Raisi doubling down on anti-West rhetoric, Iran has expanded its military drills and deepened ties with both Russia and China. The country's latest war games in the Strait of Hormuz featured newly upgraded ballistic missile systems, raising alarms in Washington. According to a March 2025 report by Al Jazeera, Iran unveiled the Fateh-2 hypersonic missile, capable of bypassing U.S. defense systems. The missile's range of 400 kilometers may not reach the U.S. mainland, but it certainly threatens American assets in the Middle East. Meanwhile, Iranian naval forces are reportedly shadowing U.S. vessels in the Persian Gulf with increasing frequency. Beyond military exercises, Iran has been engaging in cyber warfare tactics, targeting U.S. infrastructure and financial systems. The FBI and DHS issued a joint advisory in February 2025 warning of Iranian-backed hacking groups attempting to breach government networks. Experts say this is part of a broader hybrid warfare strategy designed to weaken the U.S. without full-scale confrontation. Iran has also strengthened military ties with anti-U.S. militias across the Middle East. From Hezbollah in Lebanon to Houthi rebels in Yemen, Iran's network of proxy forces is growing increasingly active. These groups provide Tehran with indirect ways to challenge American influence without directly provoking a full-blown war. While a direct conflict may not be imminent, Iran's positioning in 2025 is clearly confrontational. With new weapons, hardened rhetoric, and a growing list of regional allies, Iran is making it known. It's ready to push back if challenged. The message to the U.S. is loud and clear: stay out or face consequences. Number 9. North Korea. It's no surprise that North Korea lands a spot on this list. In 2025, the regime of Kim Jong-un is taking its defiance to the next level, boasting a series of missile launches and ramped-up military drills. With satellite images showing continued construction at nuclear testing sites, tensions with the U.S. are at their highest since 2017. Earlier this year, Pyongyang launched a solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM, capable of reaching parts of the continental U.S., according to South Korean defense officials. This marked the first time North Korea successfully tested such advanced long-range technology. It sent a message, not just to South Korea or Japan, but straight across the Pacific. North Korea's threats aren't just military. The regime also accused Washington of hostile espionage activities and warned of severe consequences should the U.S. increase its surveillance in the region. In true North Korean fashion, these warnings were accompanied by propaganda videos simulating attacks on American cities. Economically isolated and heavily sanctioned, North Korea continues to rely on support from China and covert trade networks. U.S. intelligence reports suggest increased military cooperation between North Korea and Russia in 2025, further complicating the geopolitical puzzle. From weapons tech to cyber attacks, Pyongyang's moves are aimed squarely at rattling Washington. As North Korea continues to escalate its provocations, the possibility of miscalculation becomes very real. Even without a formal declaration, all the ingredients for a flashpoint with the U.S. are already on the table. And with Kim Jong-un's unpredictable behavior, 2025 could be a volatile year. Number 8. Turkey. Turkey might seem like an unlikely entry, but its recent actions suggest a pivot away from the U.S. and toward its own strategic ambitions. Under President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Ankara has increased its assertiveness on the global stage, sometimes in direct opposition to American interests. In 2025, Turkey is flexing its military muscle while deepening ties with nations like Russia and Iran. Earlier this year, Turkey conducted large-scale joint military exercises with Azerbaijan and Pakistan, both of which have experienced tense moments with U.S. allies. Simultaneously, it finalized a weapons agreement with China, raising eyebrows in Washington. According to Defense News, Turkey has also restarted production of its indigenous fifth-generation fighter jet, TFX, without U.S. support. Ankara's shift has come with sharp rhetoric. Erdogan has accused the U.S. of destabilizing the region through its support for Kurdish forces in Syria, which Turkey views as terrorists. These accusations have sparked diplomatic standoffs, including threats to restrict access to U.S. bases in southern Turkey. Beyond the Middle East, Turkey's recent moves in the eastern Mediterranean have put it at odds with NATO members, including the U.S. Its naval presence around contested gas fields has been labeled provocative by the State Department. But Ankara insists it is defending its national interests. While Turkey remains a NATO member, its recent trajectory points toward greater independence and potential confrontation. With military upgrades, shifting alliances, and heated rhetoric, Ankara is no longer following Washington's lead. And in 2025, that growing divide could spark serious tension. Number 7. Venezuela. At number 7, we turn to Venezuela, a country that's increasingly aligning itself with U.S. adversaries and making no secret of its anti-American posture. Under President Nicolás Maduro, Caracas has forged closer ties with both Russia and Iran, hosting joint naval drills off its coast in early 2025. These maneuvers were seen by Pentagon officials as deliberately provocative, especially given their proximity to U.S. waters. Venezuela's military has also been ramping up its capabilities, recently unveiling Chinese-made missile systems capable of reaching regional U.S. interests. In March 2025, Maduro announced the purchase of new drone fleets, allegedly modeled after Iranian designs, intended for both surveillance and combat use. According to Reuters, U.S. intelligence has flagged multiple weapon shipments entering Venezuela under murky diplomatic covers. Economically cornered, Venezuela has doubled down on rhetoric portraying the U.S. as a colonial aggressor. State-run media routinely airs segments blaming Washington for the country's economic woes, fanning anti-U.S. sentiment. And in his 2025 national address, Maduro claimed the U.S. was preparing for an invasion, an accusation dismissed by U.S. officials, but taken seriously by his military. Meanwhile, joint anti-U.S. strategy meetings have reportedly taken place between Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua, with observers from Iran in attendance. These summits are kept low-key, but have raised eyebrows in Washington. It's becoming clear that Caracas is aligning itself with a growing axis of resistance. Though the likelihood of direct military conflict remains low, Venezuela is increasingly playing a strategic role in anti-U.S. coalitions. From arms purchases to regional alliances, 2025 is proving that this Latin American nation is not just resisting the U.S., it's preparing for potential escalation. Number 6. Belarus. Belarus may not have the global spotlight, but in 2025, it's emerging as a key node in Russia's broader pushback against the West, especially the U.S. under the authoritarian rule of Alexander Lukashenko. Belarus has allowed Russian troops to permanently station within its borders. This military entanglement has effectively turned the country into a launchpad for anti-NATO, and by extension, anti-U.S. operations. Satellite imagery analyzed by Jane's Intelligence Review shows a significant expansion of Belarusian military bases near the Polish and Lithuanian borders. In January 2025, Belarus also joined a trilateral defense pact with Russia and Iran, aimed at countering Western hegemony. The pact includes intelligence sharing, joint war games, and a controversial cyber defense agreement. Belarus has also hosted nuclear-capable missile systems, according to a leaked NATO report. While Lukashenko denies that any active warheads are stored in the country, the movement of mobile launchers suggests a heightened state of readiness. These actions have triggered emergency sessions among NATO allies and renewed pressure from Washington. In terms of domestic policy, Belarus continues to crack down on Western NGOs and media, labeling them as tools of U.S. subversion. Anti-American propaganda is rampant on state television, and American diplomats face heavy surveillance and restricted mobility. The regime frames all dissent as part of a Western conspiracy. While Belarus may not be the biggest threat alone, its role as a Russian satellite makes it strategically critical. In 2025, Lukashenko is leaning fully into the East militarily, ideologically, and operationally. And that puts Belarus on a direct collision course with U.S. interests in Eastern Europe. Number 5. Pakistan. Pakistan's relationship with the U.S. has always been complicated, but in 2025, it's taking a noticeable downturn. Amid growing tensions with India and shifting regional alliances, Islamabad is inching closer to China and Russia for military support. This pivot away from the West has raised concerns in Washington, especially after reports of joint defense pacts being signed behind closed doors. According to Dawn News, Pakistan recently hosted joint war games with Chinese forces in the Balochistan region, focusing on counter-U.S. drone tactics and asymmetrical warfare. Meanwhile, Russia has reportedly offered Pakistan a defense technology transfer agreement that includes stealth drone systems. These developments signal Pakistan's intent to reduce its reliance on U.S. military equipment and forge new strategic ties. Domestically, anti-American sentiment is also on the rise. Politicians across the spectrum have criticized past cooperation with the U.S., labeling it a strategic mistake. The Pakistani military has echoed this rhetoric, emphasizing a sovereign defense doctrine that distances itself from Western influence. Adding fuel to the fire, Pakistan has blocked certain U.S. NGOs and media outlets from operating within its borders. Accusations of espionage and soft invasion tactics have been levied against American diplomats. And with increased cyber surveillance by Pakistan's intelligence agency, the divide is only widening. While not openly confrontational, Pakistan's shift in defense and diplomacy marks a clear departure from its past alignment with the U.S. In 2025, it's making moves that, intentionally or not, are preparing it for a potential break with Washington. The gloves haven't come off yet, but they're definitely being loosened. Number 4. China. No surprise here, China ranks high on the list as one of the U.S.'s primary strategic rivals. In 2025, Beijing is rapidly modernizing its military and increasing pressure in contested areas like the South China Sea and Taiwan Strait. From cyber warfare to surveillance balloons, China's provocations are as varied as they are relentless. In January 2025, Chinese fighter jets once again buzzed Taiwanese airspace, prompting an emergency response from U.S. Navy vessels stationed nearby. According to the Pentagon, China's Navy now has more active ships than the U.S. Navy, giving it a significant advantage in regional waters. The Chinese military has also been testing new hypersonic missile systems capable of targeting U.S. bases in Guam and Okinawa. Beijing's ambitions go beyond hardware. China is leading efforts to dethrone the U.S. dollar through the expansion of its digital yuan and trade pacts like the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP). At the same time, Chinese tech companies, many with ties to the military, are being accused of funneling data from American users. Propaganda and soft power also play key roles in China's strategy. State media has launched aggressive campaigns accusing the U.S. of global instability, while Confucius Institutes in several countries are being rebranded to avoid scrutiny. Behind the scenes, Chinese operatives are suspected of influencing elections and opinion through social media bots and covert funding. As relations continue to deteriorate, China's posture is shifting from competitive to combative. From economic warfare to military intimidation, it's laying the groundwork for a future where conflict with the U.S. isn't just possible, it's anticipated. And in 2025, that tension feels more tangible than ever. Number 3. Cuba. Cuba might be a small island nation, but in 2025, it's re-emerging as a key player in anti-American strategy, especially within the Western Hemisphere. The Cuban government has recently revived military cooperation with both Russia and China, allowing naval vessels from both nations to dock in Havana. These symbolic visits are sending a strong message to Washington. The Cold War may be over, but the chessboard is active again. In February 2025, President Miguel Diaz-Canel announced a new defense agreement with Moscow that includes cybersecurity collaboration, intelligence sharing, and mutual airspace access during joint drills. Meanwhile, Chinese electronic surveillance stations are reportedly being built in eastern Cuba, potentially within range of intercepting U.S. communications in Florida. The Pentagon has classified this development as a national security concern. Domestically, Cuba continues to suppress pro-Western voices and has increased arrests of citizens suspected of collaborating with foreign media. The state-run press blames U.S. sanctions for economic instability while simultaneously warning of imperialist plots aimed at regime change. These narratives fuel public animosity and reinforce Cuba's anti-U.S. stance. The government is also expanding its cyber capabilities with suspected assistance from Russian intelligence. American officials have linked Cuban cyber units to recent phishing campaigns targeting U.S. election systems and military contractors. While attribution remains difficult, the circumstantial evidence is piling up. Number 2. Syria. Syria might be war-torn, but it's also becoming a hub for anti-U.S. military activity in the Middle East. Under Bashar al-Assad's regime, 2025 has brought new alliances and new provocations, with Russia and Iran solidifying their military presence in the region. The U.S. still maintains a small contingent of forces in northeastern Syria, but they're increasingly under threat. According to Al Monitor, Iranian militias have launched over 24 drone and rocket attacks on U.S. bases in Syria since the start of the year. In response, American forces have carried out limited airstrikes, but these have only fueled more anti-U.S. propaganda. Assad has openly condemned the U.S. presence as illegal occupation and vowed to support efforts to expel all foreign troops except those invited by his government. In March 2025, satellite imagery revealed Russia's 400 anti-air systems being deployed to western Syria, close to key U.S. surveillance positions. These advanced defense systems create a high-risk zone for American air operations. U.S. officials believe this could limit their ability to conduct counter-terror missions in the region. Syria is also allowing its territory to serve as a logistics hub for Iranian weapons headed to Hezbollah in Lebanon. This supply chain has long been a concern for Israel, but in 2025, it's becoming a bigger problem for Washington as it expands into U.S. patrolled areas. The risk of accidental or intentional escalation is growing by the day. Number 1. Russia. Taking the top spot on our list is none other than Russia, a nation in open defiance of U.S. interests across nearly every geopolitical front. In 2025, Vladimir Putin's government has not only continued its war in Ukraine, but has expanded military coordination with other U.S. adversaries, including Iran, China, and North Korea. Russia is no longer just posturing, it's actively preparing for broader confrontation. This year, Russia staged its largest military exercises since the Cold War, called Zaslan 25, involving over 300,000 troops and live-fire drills across multiple borders. According to TASS, these war games simulated defense against a NATO invasion and even featured mock cyberattacks on Western power grids. The message wasn't subtle, it was a direct rehearsal for a clash with the West. Moscow has also begun stationing new-generation nuclear-capable missiles in Kaliningrad and Crimea, putting them within striking distance of U.S. bases in Europe. Satellite imagery confirmed the presence of avant-garde hypersonic glide vehicles missiles capable of maneuvering past traditional missile defense systems. The U.S. Department of Defense has called the move deeply destabilizing. On the economic and cyber fronts, Russia is going full throttle. Its state-sponsored hackers are actively targeting U.S. infrastructure, including airports and banking systems, according to a March 2025 report by the NSA. Meanwhile, the Kremlin is pushing anti-U.S. propaganda throughout Eastern Europe and Latin America, funding media networks and disinformation campaigns. So there you have it, 10 countries that aren't just clashing with us ideals, but actively preparing for potential military, economic, or cyber conflict. From rogue regimes to rising powers, these nations are challenging American dominance in ways both direct and subtle, and the consequences could reshape global order as we know it. While full-scale war may not erupt overnight, the groundwork is being laid. Military drills, defense pacts, economic isolation strategies, these are all signs of something much larger brewing under the surface. For the United States, 2025 is not just a year of diplomacy, it's a year of vigilance. Which country do you think poses the biggest threat to the U.S. right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a deep dive from Globe Discoveries. Until next time, stay informed and stay curious.